Hello my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. So let us start over here today with some more strange sounds. Remember the trumpet sounds we've been hearing? Well, we have more cases of that going on. The latest ones have been in California and Minneapolis. And so we'll start with California.
Wow, that's a weird sound. Trumpets. Trumpet to the sky. This is my first time catching it. Wow. Wow, that's a weird sound. Trumpets.
So that's not so strong as some of the other ones.
Trumpets. Trumpet to the sky. This is my first time.
So it sounds like that metallic humming sound that we've heard. Now this one over here is from Minnesota, and of course I'll have all the links for you guys to try to hear them. Much clearer.
Hear that strange noise?
Kind of that high-pitched metallic humming one, and this one's in the UK.
Very, very eerie.
Almost sounds like two giant boats screeching up against each other.
Very, very eerie.
Really, weird. So there's some of the theories they're talking about: tectonic plates grinding, atmospheric pressure, train shunting, construction, aliens, HARP, CERN, the apocalypse, and the seven trumpets of heaven. So those are all some of the theories. And so we keep seeing and hearing these things happen in various areas all over the world. We have another long crack opening up. This is in Kenya, and this one's 10 kilometers long, 6.2 miles. It's emerged on the slopes of Elgeyo and Carpent in western Kenya last week following heavy rains in the region. More than 10,000 households living on this escarpment, part of the western wall of the Great Rift Valley. So locals are voluntarily evacuating the area. And been many similar events in Kenya and Uganda. And so, as we have heard, the mainstream will tell you, well, this is going to take millions of years for it to split. But yet we see these fissures and cracks miles long, 6 miles long, this one, going along time after time. It's happening just consistently. And you could see all these cracks. There's a lot of rapid movement going on, and with the rains that we've had, it doesn't help anything. So Alberto ended up being blamed for 8 deaths and 3 missing in the US and Cuba. And yes, it wasn't a very strong storm, but all the rain that we've had and the flooding has been insane. And so it ended up being a deadly first named storm of the season. And we will see what else will come. And incredible weather that we are seeing. And Mount Merapi erupted again, this time 38,000 feet, aviation color code red in Indonesia. And so all these things are going to keep adding to the the ice age that's coming. and that we're finding ourselves in this grand solar minimum. And it's just there's more and more things adding to this all the time, my friends. So we need to be as prepared as we could. They found 25 more giant drawings in the Nazca area. And so more of these Nazca lines have been discovered. And one of them is a woman dancing, which you can see here, and a bear, and so a whale, and very, very interesting, because you can't really make these out unless you're flying, unless you're either got a camera on a drone, which is what they were using for a lot of this, or you're up in the air. So how did they figure people were going to see these? It really makes so much sense with either an advanced civilization or ETs. It has to be. There's really not any other things that would make sense if it wasn't geared towards one of the two things. And South Carolina is not known for earthquakes, but this small town has had 3 in 6 months. What's up? Actually, Charleston got hit by a huge earthquake. 1886, yep. And it actually liquefied the ground around there, because the ground is all just sand down there. So it's something to be aware of. There could be extremely devastating earthquakes in that area because of the fault that's there, and also because of the way the ground is. So that was a 7.3 that they had in 1886 in Charleston. 60 people died, many were injured, damage amounted to tens of millions of dollars. And if an earthquake that size was to hit that area today, they predict 900 people could die, another 9,000 could be seriously injured, 200,000 could be displaced, and economic losses could exceed $20 billion. So something to keep in mind. The Hawaii volcano prompts new warning. Heed evacuation order or face arrest, as more and more people end up getting trapped and encircled by the lava and having to be rescued from above. So mandatory evacuations, it's still ongoing. It hasn't slowed down. Lava flow is continuing. And yesterday we watched a drop-off in the amount of earthquakes. As you might remember me talking about, we went from like 70, 64 as a low in a 24-hour period, all the way up to 300 and something, and today we're back at 390. We had a small eruption, well, not really small, like 5.3 earthquake with an eruption, and it dropped down, so that relieved some pressure, and we dropped down into the 150 range, 170 range. Now we're right back up to 390 earthquakes, and actually there's a lot of activity going on, and also we have an increase in the solar rays coming in, so that's going to that could cause potential for some bigger earthquakes and some increased activity as well. Something to be aware of: 390 earthquakes in 24 hours is quite a bit going on here, and you can see it's fairly well spread out right now too. And a big assortment of depths too. This one's negative 0.3 kilometers, so that's basically above the ground, which this is over towards Mauna Loa, as far as I would think. It seems like it should be towards Mauna Loa, and we could actually check that. Let's see. So that's going to be USGS. Let's bring up Google Earth here. Because they don't always match as far as what they give us. And I would not be surprised, because it looks like it should be somewhere more towards Mauna Loa. And while this is loading and giving us all these commercials, let us search here. And you can see it's given us a different spot that's not quite where we were looking. But yeah, it's over towards Mauna Loa for sure. So again, makes you wonder, are we going to see activity spread out into other areas? That's kind of one of the big questions that I would have. And so definitely something to watch. There's a big uptick, likelihood. There's 392 now. The likelihood of another eruption, I would think, is probably growing. And as well as when we look at the rest of the activity going on, it's definitely kicked up a notch. So you can see a lot of activity going on around the Ring of Fire. We have not seen anything of a 6 or bigger in a long time. Lots of 5s, lots of 4s, and like this one's very deep, 570 kilometers, 5.2. So if you listen to Dutch, he would say, probably look for something in the low 6s to occur upstream. So either going up this way or coming out. And, like Japan would be probably which way it would go. 360, that's relatively deep as well. So we'll see. There's definitely a lot of things cooking. We see again another 4.7 over here at Mayotte. So there's definitely activity going on with the rift, as we have seen. And we still have a lot of things going on with the military moves. This is all about the Chinese silent killer lasers that can now eliminate aircraft as tensions with U.S. soar. And again, they're putting things out there. I mean, they always want to convince us World War III is about to happen, and they love to create the fear and the panic, and there are definitely some forces that probably would like to see it happen, as we know, but something to be aware of, and I keep an eye on those things, but I don't put a lot of energy into it. And here we have another one of those absolutely crazy things that could be very concerning when you think about it. And so there was another alert that came out. Like, you can read this person's comment. I live in Salem. I got the alert. I called members of my militia and we started getting ready. Supermarket shelves are stripped bare of bottled water in Salem, Oregon, after officials warned residents that tap water was unsafe for children and the elderly due to an algae bloom. The head of Oregon's emergency management agency has apologized after a cryptic emergency alert was forced out. 2 cell phones in and around Oregon's capital city displaying the words civil emergency and prepare for action, but carrying little other information. So Oregon's emergency alert system blasted that alert, but they left off the fact that the threat was a toxic algae bloom. Now, was it really? You have to just question everything. What's really going on here? Why are we getting all these alerts that are either totally wrong or there's something else? Why is everybody all across the country, and including Japan, and why are they getting this wrong time and time again? What's exactly going on here? So as soon as people got the alert, they just headed off and they just got all the water off the shelves in like no time. And this one resident set down a case of bottled water Wednesday after he was carrying it down the sidewalk and described the uneasy feeling of seeing the first alert arrive on his phone with an ominous warning but no other information. It almost made me not want to go outside. after the alert caught him at the gym, and he had interrupted his exercise routine to ask staff at the front desk if they knew what it was about. I didn't know if there was something going on in the area or if there was a shooter. You just had no way of knowing. So what is really going on here? You got to ask yourself, what's going on? Are there multiple agendas going on? Remember, we had this go out, all about Hawaii, with ballistic missile threat inbound. And then, as it turns out, there were sources saying that that was not a fake alert, that was actually real. And many people believe it was real. And many people believe that it was shot down by the good guys. But it was an actual missile that was being sent to Hawaii, in order to start World War III, making it appear that it was like a North Korean attack, a false flag attack that was shot down by the good guys. Now, who are the good guys? Well, there's different people that, believe different things. And some will say this is ET intervention. And there are many of you guys out there, too, that said World War III will never happen because the ETs won't let it. So, I'm just throwing all these things out there for you guys. I have my own opinions, which do change, because I'm going to be flexible as new info comes in. And so this was about the Japanese one, the false message that was sent in and went through, again, public broadcasters. And basically, again, a false missile alert. Or was it? That's what we got to ask ourselves. And then we had the tsunami warnings for Portland, Maine. And it wasn't just Portland, Maine. It was all up and down the entire East Coast, all along the Atlantic, New York, and other locations as well. And one of the things that Asia got when we were channeling, and we were talking about tsunamis, because I was mentioning both the Helena slump over in Hawaii, and I was also mentioning La Palma and the Canary Islands area. And what she got was that those weren't things that we needed to worry about right now. She did see the potential for a tsunami and water inundation, and but she felt that it was more likely to be up along British Columbia and Washington, and then also up along New York, Massachusetts, up into UK and Iceland. So something totally different, totally different. And she felt like that could be something that happened before you would have any of those other ones. So this just, when you get these things, these alerts, are there good guys, whether they are ETs or whether they are, people in the government, people in different lines of service where they are privy to information that we are not privy to, and they know, and they're trying to get this message out to warn us that these things are in the plans? I kind of feel like that really might be the answer. That's kind of where my gut is going, is that I feel like these things are warnings, and they're trying to let us know. Now, as we were talking about before, especially with yesterday's video about chaos magic, there's also the possibility that they're trying to feed us these things so we'll help create them. So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario in some ways. So we must always cultivate the air of, easier said than done, kind of not indifference, but not allow ourselves to get caught up in the fear. And also have good control over our minds so that we're not feeding it. Be aware and be alert. But just like in meditation, when you're trying to meditate and get your mind to just stop and thoughts keep popping up, you let the thought pop up, you acknowledge it, and you let it go, and you just go back to what you're doing. So you just have to notice and then release. Notice and release. And don't attach emotion or anxiety to it, and don't get frustrated. So it's always good for us to know things, but don't allow ourselves to feed the negatives. So we have to be. It's such a fine line. It really is such a fine line that we have to thread here, because we don't want to be caught off guard, but we don't want to also manifest something. And you see, it was in Boston, it was down in Florida, it was also in the Gulf Coast as well that they did this. So it's very, very curious. And then, of course, we had the infamous power outage and zombie alert for residents of Lake Worth and Terminus. And Terminus was out of the Walking Dead show. And Terminus was where they were heading to, eagerly heading to. This is the the cast of The Walking Dead, the good guys in the show. We're heading there thinking that they have found a sanctuary and a refuge. And then when they get there, humans were just trying to draw people in so they could actually use humans as food. And so it was not a good scenario. It was a horrible scenario. And it was a absolutely disgusting show. It was nauseating. But be aware, this is, again, extremely unusual. And I still think there's numerology here. 7,380 customers involved due to extreme zombie activity. Restoration time uncertain. 7,380. 7 plus 3 is 10 plus 8 is 18. 1 plus 8 is 9, which is like completion, culmination. Is that something as well? And is that some, is there other coding in there? And on this, basically, there's more info that I've gotten from a source that wants to remain anonymous. And I do feel like the source is a good source, but they want to remain anonymous. And they had said that this is a message from the good guys to us. And that what this is all about is that, if you remember that crazy case of those zombies in Miami, and some of you had corrected me too, because I thought that it was over, and some of you have said no, it's still ongoing. They're just keeping it down low. So remember, like, here, the horrific face-eating arrest in Miami and several other seemingly subhuman acts has many people wondering what's behind this flesh-munching wave of terror. And, I mean, this is real. This is real. This stuff happened. And, these are cases of, like in this one case, Rudy Eugene, 31, was killed by cops while in the process of eating almost the entirety of a homeless man's face off. And miraculously, he survived. And so more cases again. Then on Tuesday, the 21-year-old of Maryland allegedly admitted to dismembering his roommate and eating his heart and brain. These are horrible things. And there was a mysterious rash breakout at a high school in Hollywood, Florida, and other parts of Florida, which hazmat and disease control teams still can't explain, as further proof that zombies are taking over. And zombie-like characteristics have been confirmed in the animal kingdom, not just in humans. A newfound fungus in Brazilian rainforest called Ophiocordyceps camponti balzani is known to infect an ant, take over its brain so as to move the body to a good location for growth, and then kill the insect. Yet, this particular person that they were quoting dismissed fictional viruses. So, not that they're actually reanimating the dead, but literally we've seen this. And so the source that I'm talking about, what they said is that this warning that came out is truly a warning, and it's a warning from the good guys. And they feel it's the good guys along with ETs. So this is good ETs hijacking, these broadcasts, along with working with humans, to give us a warning that is going to let us know that this is what they plan to do. When I say plan, and I'm talking about the cabal, the cabal Illuminati, and that they're in the midst of spreading something like that fungus or some sort of biological agent through the chemtrails into certain areas, and probably here in Florida, because this is where the alert went to, and this is where they did it before, and that outbreak over there was basically them doing it through the chemtrails, and it gave us an outbreak of that particular, zombie attacks. And so this warning is another warning that they're doing it again and doing it in bigger numbers. So, that's something you guys could take with a grain of salt, or you could run with it, whatever you want to do with it. The source wanted to remain anonymous and didn't want to be affiliated with this. So I'll honor that. And, it kind of makes sense to me, because I do feel like these are warnings coming out from the good guys to warn us about what's really going on and what's in store and planned. And, anybody that dismisses the fact that biological agents, as well as aluminum and barium and other metallic substances, are sprayed up there in the skies every day. And, contrails are not chemtrails, and chemtrails are not contrails. They're two different things. We see the X patterns. We see them playing tic-tac-toe. It's obvious. This is not just flight patterns here. There's purpose, and there's been numerous studies done that show there's biological agents being spread through the skies. And there's been a ton of declassified documents talking about the weather modification and control. And we know they've done these things before. I mean, look at the Tuskegee Airmen. There's been many cases of the government experimenting on military personnel and people that just don't even know it. And they've done it, and they still do it. And because, the government is controlled by the powers that be, which are way above the government. So realize, they don't have any of our best interests in mind. We're lab rats, we're cattle, we're assets that are very expendable. So it's something, and sometimes we're pains in the butts to them. So it's something to keep in mind. And just be aware of, and I do feel like this rings true. I mean, I'm not saying it is, but to me it vibes, and it makes sense. So I just wanted to make you guys alert and aware of that. And, you just don't know. These are crazy times. And like last night when I was here, and gosh, I think it was close to midnight, all of a sudden there was like bang, 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 bang. I mean, it was probably like a set of maybe about 7 or 8 bangs, and then there was a moment's break, and then there was like another 10 bangs that rang out. And the way they rang out, they weren't fireworks, so went out and checked with neighbors, and, it's one of those things where, this is not a quote-unquote tough area or anything, but somebody just came down the street and just started shooting, and you just don't know. And just take all these different attacks that we've seen, and it's a kind of a crazy world out there. And I think a lot of these random attacks, like the one in Fort Lauderdale at the airport, that guy seemed like he was totally controlled. It was almost like he didn't know what he was doing. He was totally being controlled, and that can happen. And we know there's technology out there to do that, take total control over people. We see, what can happen with all these different radio waves, EMF, ultra low frequencies. There's been so much research and development into these things from a military aspect, as well as these biological agents. You just have to be aware of these things and be safe out there. So I wanted to share that with you guys. And again, no fear, just awareness. So be safe out there, my friends and family. Much love as always. So please do thumbs up to support the channel. Share as much as you can, because definitely it feels like the powers that be are really trying to slow down the spread of the word. I see that in so many different arenas. And so many of my other friends that do this work in the same line have found the same thing. So we're definitely getting blowback from the powers that be. So definitely share as much as you can. If you're new here, please do subscribe, and make sure you click the bell for all the updates, and double check too, just to make sure you are getting the updates if you are subscribed, because some people have gotten unsubscribed randomly and they don't know how it happened. So as always, my friends, may you be blessed with love, light. May you be protected and guided in every step of your journey. I love you guys. God bless and namaste, my friends.